Hi everybody, welcome to Live Blogger. I have combined all the videos in our musician website design series into the single long video so that it's easy for you to follow. Now in this video, we are basically going to create this website right here using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. And this is also completely responsive. And I'll also show you how to deploy this website online at the end. So let's get started. So here we have this nav bar at the top, and we have this button with this hover effect, and here we have this hero section, and if you scroll down we have this about section, and then if you scroll down we have the collaborations section where we have the logos of some of these brands over here. Then we have the next section where we have the latest releases. It is basically a thumbnail and some text. You can add any content you want over here. And then we have another section for live performances, and then we have explore section where we have these two different buttons which we can link to any place we want. And then we have this footer where we have the address, the email ID and the phone number. So this is what this website looks like, and this is also responsive. So if you decrease the width of the browser window, this is how it will look on smaller screens. Here we can see that instead of the menu items we have this menu icon, and if I click on that we have these menus displayed over here, and then we have all these sections displayed in a mobile friendly way. So in this tutorial series we're going to see how to design this website from scratch using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Alright, so here I have created this folder called musician website, and I just opened it with VS Code, and also have this folder called images where we have all these images. Now let's start by creating the necessary file. So let's create a new file called index.html, and let's create another file called style.css, and let's create one more file called main.js. So let's start with the index.html file. Now in VS Code you can just type exclamation and press tab, and you will have this basic HTML5 code. Now here for the title let's type welcome. Now here let's link our CSS file, so we can just type link and press tab. And here in the href let's type style.css, and here in the body let's type script:/src and press tab, and here let's type main.js. So we have linked our CSS and JavaScript files to the index.html file. Right, now let's start with our markup. Now the first thing we will do is we'll create this nav bar. So let's create a nav element, and in this nav bar we can see that all the content is inside a specific width. So if we zoom out, we can see that we have this max width for this nav bar. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another division with the class of container, and we will style it in the CSS with a max width property. Now here in this division we need to have the left section where we have the logo and these menu items, and the right section where we have this contact button. So let's create a division with the class of left. Now in this let's create a division with the class of logo, and here let's create the logo. So let's create an anchor tag, and here let's type lb dot. So this is our logo. You can add an image if you want over here, and then after the logo let's create another division with the class of menu items, and in this menu items let's add all these menu items. So let's create anchor tags for all of that, and here instead of this hash you can add the links of these pages. So here let's tap home, and I'll just duplicate it 3 more times, and we have portfolio, music and about. Right, now let's go outside the left division, and let's create another division of the class of right, and in this right division we will have this contact button. So let's create an anchor tag, and let's tap contact. Now here, since this is a button, we need to style it differently, so let's add a class called btn. Right, now let's go outside this nav and let's create a header, and in this header we need to have this text. So we need to have all this content inside a fixed width as well. So let's create a division with the class of container, and here let's type h1, and let's add this text, enjoy creative music. Alright, that's basically it with the header. And now let's go ahead and style this in our CSS. So first of all let's open this in our browser and let's see how it looks. So Here I have this extension installed called Live Server. So once you have this installed, you can just right click over here in the HTML file and click on Open with Live Server. And now we can see our website is being displayed in the browser. Let's go ahead and start styling this. So let's go to the style.css file, and first of all, let's import the fonts over here. So let's go to fonts.google.com, and here to go ahead and search for the fonts. So the fonts that we need are Inter, and this font over here is called DM Serif Display. So you can just search for the fonts over here. So you can just have DM Serif Display and open the font and just click on the add button over here. So I have already added it, so it is showing me this remove button. So you can add the DM Serif Display and also the Inter font, and once you do that, you will find this screen right here. And here we can see I have the Inter font and the DM Serif Display font. Then you can just click on this Get Embed Code button, and you can go to Import, and you can get this line of code and paste it in your CSS. So I'll just copy this and I'll just paste it in the CSS. Right now, the next thing we will do is we will select everything, and we will type box sizing to border box so that we have the correct width and height for all the elements. And now let's select the body, and let's remove the default margin, and let's set the font family of all the text to Inter sans serif by default, and let's set the color of all the text to 0, and let's set the color of all the text to 000, which is black. And let's add some CSS variables over here. So let's tap :root, and this will be accessible throughout our CSS. So let's create a primary color, and let's set the value to D1510A. Let's create another variable with a name of primary2color, and here let's tap 9 to 3A06, and let's create another variable called accent color, and let's set the value to F3E8E2. Right now, let's add some styles for the container. So for the container, we need to have a max width. So let's tap max width, and let's set the max width to 1000 pixels, and we'll also bring it to the center horizontally. So let's type margin inline, which is margin left and right, and let's set it to auto. And let's set a padding of 0 top and bottom and 30 pixels left and right, so it will look good on mobile versions as well. Right now, let's select all the anchor tags, and let's remove the underlines by default. So let's tap text decoration to none, and let's set the color of all the text of the anchor tags to 0, which is black. Right now, let's select all the paragraph, and let's add a line height, and let's set it to 1.8. Right now that we are done with this basic common CSS, let's go ahead and start with the nav bar. So the first thing we will do is let's target the nav element, and let's set the position to fixed so that even if we scroll down, it will always stay at the top. And let's set the top position to 0 and left to 0 and right to 0. And let's add a background color of white, and let's add a box shadow, and let's set the values to 0, 3 pixels, 50 pixels, -7 pixels, RGBA 0, 0, 0 and 0.3. So this is our nav bar. Let's also set a padding of 30 pixels top and bottom, 0 for left and right. Right now we want the left and the right divisions to be one next to the other, because here we can see we have this nav element, and in that we have the container, and in the container we have the left and the right divisions. So let's type nav container, and let's set a display of flex, align items to the center, and justify content to space between. So now we can see that the left section is on the left side and the right section on the right side. Right now we want this logo to be on the left side and the menu items to be on the right side. So here we can see we have this division with the class of left, and in that we have the logo and the menu items. So let's add a display of flex for this left division as well. So let's tap nav left, display of flex, align items to the center, and let's add a gap of 60 pixels between the elements. So now we can see we have this logo on the left side, we have the menu items, and we have this contact button. Right now let's target this logo. So for the logo, we have this anchor tag, and it has this container division of logo. So let's go ahead and type nav logo, and let's set the font size to 24 pixels. Let's set the font weight to bold. Let's set the font family to DM serif display and serif as a backup font. And here we have the logo. Right now let's style these menu items. So let's type nav, and we have a division with the class of menu items. So let's set the display to flex, and let's add a gap of 30 pixels. So this is our menu items. Right now let's style this button. So for the button we have this class of btn. So let's type .btn, and for the button let's add a background color of var, and let's select primary color. So this is the variable that we created over here in the CSS, and let's add a padding of 12 pixels top and bottom, 32 pixels left and right. Let's set a border radius of 20 pixels, and let's set the color of the text to white, and let's go ahead and add a hover effect. So let's type button : hover, and when we hover over this button we will set the color to primary 2 color. So let's type background, and let's set it to var primary 2 color, and let's add a smooth transition. So let's type transition, and let's set it to all 300 milliseconds ease, and now we can see we have this hover effect. Now if you scroll down in our design, we also have a button which has a different styling. So for this button we will have a class called light as well. So let's style that button. Let's type btn dot light. So when we have this light class for the button, we'll just go ahead and set the border to 2 pixels solid var primary color, and we'll set the background to white, and we'll set the color of the text to black, and let's add the hover effect for this light button. So let's type btn dot light : hover, and here let's set the color of the text to white, and let's add a background color of var primary color. Right now let's go ahead and style this header. So let's add a comment. Let's type header, and let's target the header element, and first of all let's add a margin top, so that the header that we have right now should be displayed over here, because right now it is hidden by this nav bar. Now this nav bar has a height of 83 pixels, so I'll just add a margin top of 83 pixels. Now we can see we have the header being displayed over here. Now let's also set a height of 100 viewport height, and let's set the width to 100%, and let's also set the height to 100 viewport height. Let's set the display to flex, align items to the center, and justify content to the center, and let's add a background, and let's set the background color to a dark color. Let's just add black color over here, and we'll also add a background image. So let's type background URL. So if the image is not there, then we will have this black background color, but if the image is available, then it will be shown. So let's tap images, and I have an image called hero.jpg, so let's add that over here, and here we can see we have the image being displayed. And for the image, let's set a background size to cover, and let's set the background repeat to no repeat, so that the background won't be repeated even if we zoom out. Right now let's style the h1. So let's tap header h1, and let's set the font size to 60 pixels. Let's set the color of the text to white. Let's add a background color of black. Let's add a padding of 10 pixels, and let's set the font family to DM serif display serif. And with that, we have styled our nav bar and the hero section of our website. Right here I'm in my source code, so let's go to the HTML file, and let's go outside the header, and let's create a section. Let's give it an ID of about, and this should also have all the content inside a specific width. So let's add the container division over here, And in this we will have the left and the right division. So let's create a division with the class of left, and here let's add an S3, or let's create an H2, and here let's tap discover the music of LB, and let's create a right division over here. And in this right division we will have a paragraph, and let's copy this text from here and let's paste it over here. So this is the about section. Let's create one more section, and let's give it an ID of collaborations, and in this we will have the container division, and in that we will have the H2, and let's tap brands, and we will have all these images over here. So let's create a division with the class of brands, and in that we will have all the images. So let's create an img tag, and in the source let's tap images / logo1.jpg, and let's duplicate this 4 more times, and then we'll have logo 2, we'll have logo 3, 4 and 5. Right, now if we go back to our design, this is how it looks. We have all the content displayed over here. Now let's style this. So let's go to our style.css file, and let's add some styles for all the H2. So for the H2, let's set the font family to DM serif display serif, and let's set the font size to 40 pixels, and let's set the margin top to 0. So this is the H2. Now for the about section, we need to have this H2 on the left side and this content on the right side. So let's create a comment. I'll just tap about, and here let's tap #about container, and let's set the display to flex, align items to the center, justify content to space between, and let's add a gap of 30 pixels. And now we can see that the content of the heading is on the left side and the paragraph on the right side. Now for the left side we will have 1/3 of the width. So let's tap about left, and let's set the flex to 1, and about right, and let's set the flex to 2, and this is how it looks. So I think we can decrease the font size a little bit. So here for the left side, let's tap font size, and let's set it to 30 pixels, and I think we'll just go ahead and change this to an H3, and let's set the font family to DM serif display serif. So this is how this about section looks. Now let's go ahead and style this brands section. So let's create a comment, collaborations, and let's type #collaborations, and we'll add a background color for this section. So let's type var, and let's set it to accent color. So now we can see we have this background color. Now for all the sections we will have some padding. So let's type padding of 60 pixels top and bottom, and 0 for left or right. And now we can see we have this padding for the sections. Right now we want to bring this heading to the center. So let's type collaborations H2 text align center. Right now we need to bring all these brands one next to the other, and let's also change the size of the image. So let's tap dot brands, and let's target the images, and let's set the width of the images to 120 pixels, and let's add a border radius of 50% so that it has a round shape, and let's target the brands division, and let's set the display to flex, align items to the center. Let's add a gap of 24 pixels, and justify content to the center, and let's also add a flex wrap. So let's tap flex wrap, and let's set it to wrap. So now when we decrease the width of the browser window, the logos will wrap down. Right, so with that we have designed the about and the brands section. Right, here I'm in my source code. So let's go to the HTML file, and let's go outside this collaborations section, and let's create a section with an ID of releases, and we need to have all the content inside a fixed width. So let's add it inside the container division, and we need to have a left division, and on the left division we need to have this image. So let's create an img tag, and in the source let's type images / and I have this image called thumb1.jpg. And let's create a right division, and in the right division we will have an h2, and let's type latest releases, and let's create a paragraph, and let's copy this and paste it over here. Right now let's create another section, and let's give it an ID of performances or performance, and in this also we will have the container division, and here let's create a left division, and in this left division we need to have the h2, and we need to type live performances, and let's create a paragraph, and let's copy this and let's paste it over here. Let's create a right division, and let's create an img tag. Let's type images / thumb2.jpg. So we have written the HTML of both these sections. Now let's go to the CSS and let's start styling this. So this is how it looks right now. Let's create a comment and let's type releases. Now we need to have the same type of styling for both these sections. So let's add a class over here, and let's set it to split. We need to split these sections into 2 parts. And let's add the same split class over here as well for performances. And now here we can simply go ahead and type split container, and for the container let's set the display to flex, align items to the center, and let's set a gap of 30 pixels. And now if you go back here we can see that the content are displayed one next to the other. Right now let's style this image. So let's type split image, and let's set the height to 300 pixels, and let's set a border radius of 10 pixels for rounded corners, and object fit to cover so that it has the correct proportions. And we need to set the same width for these 2 divisions. So let's select both the divisions. So let's type split left and split right, and let's set the flex to 1, and both of them will have the same width. So with that we have styled our latest releases and live performances section. Right here I'm in my source code. Let's go to the HTML file, and let's go outside this performance section, and let's create a section with an ID of portfolio, and let's add this inside the container division because we need to have a max width. And let's create an h2, and let's type explore the portfolio, and then we need to have this text, so I'll just copy this, and let's create a paragraph. Let's paste it over here. And now we need to have these 2 buttons. So for the buttons let's create a division with a class of btn container, and let's add the anchor tag for the button, and let's give it a class of btn. And for the first button let's type listen to the music, and let's duplicate this. And for the second button let's type contact for collaborations, and the second button has a different styling. So we have already added the styles in our CSS. So let's add this light class over here, and now here we can see we have these 2 buttons and they are styled correctly. Let's go back to our source code and let's add the footer, and here also we'll create the container division, and in this container division we need to have the h2, and here let's type get in touch, and let's create a paragraph, and let's copy this and let's paste it over here. And now we need to have these 3 different divisions. So let's create a division with the class of address for that, and in that we will have a division with the class of email, and in that we need to have this symbol. So for the symbol let's create a division with the class of icon, and let's get the icon from heroicons.com. So here I'm in heroicons.com, and let's search for email, and let's get the icon from here. So let's copy this icon over here. So let's click on copy SVG, and let's paste it inside this icon division, and let's go outside the icon division, and let's create a division with the class of label, and here let's type email, and here let's create another division with the class of value, and here let's add the email. So let's type info@email.com. So now if you go back here we can see that we have the logo, email, and the email displayed over here. I'm going to do the same for the other 2 divisions. So I'll just copy this email division from here, and duplicate it 2 more times. And for the second one, let's go ahead and change this to phone. Let's add a phone number over here. And for the phone, let's go ahead and get an icon over here. So let's tap phone. Let's copy this icon from here. Let's click on copy SVG. And let's paste it over here inside the icon division. And then we have the address. So let's tap office over here. And let's copy this text. So we need to have this text as well. So let's copy this and we need to add it after this label. So let's create a division with the class of info and let's add the text over here. I'll just copy this and do the same for email and phone as well. Alright, now for the office, let's set the value to this address. So let's copy this and let's add the address over here. So with that, we have completed the HTML of the footer. Now let's go ahead and style all of them. So let's go to the style.css file and let's create a comment. Let's tap portfolio. And first of all, we need to bring all of this to the center. So let's tap hash portfolio, text align to the center. Right now, let's add some margin top to these buttons. So let's tap portfolio. And we have this division with the class of btn container. So we have this division over here. So let's type btn container. And let's add a margin of 30 pixels top and bottom, 0 for left and right. Let's set the display to flex, gap of 30 pixels, and justify content to center. So now we can see that we have everything displayed correctly. Alright, now let's style this footer. So for the footer, let's go ahead and create a comment. I'll just tap footer and let's tap footer over here, and we need to add a background color for the footer. And let's set the background color to var accent color, and let's add a padding of 30 pixels top and bottom, 0 for left and right for the footer. Now let's change the size of these icons. So let's type footer, and we have it inside the icon division. We have the SVG. So let's set the height to 40 pixels. Now we need to bring all these elements one next to the other. So let's go ahead and target the container, which is this division with the class of address. So let's tap address over here, and let's set the display to flex, align items to the center, justify content to space between, and let's add a gap of 30 pixels. And for this content, we need to have a line height. So it is inside this email division. So we have the same email division for all these content because we have the same styling. So let's go ahead and type footer email, and let's set the line height to 1.8, and let's set the display to flex, flex direction to column, and let's add a gap of 20 pixels. Right now, let's go ahead and set the font weight of these values to bold. So let's tap footer, and we have a division with the class of value. So let's set the font weight to bold, and with that we have styled our footer. Now the first thing we will do is we will make this navbar responsive. So now if we go to a mobile version, this is how it looks. So what we're going to do is when we are on smaller screens, we'll just hide these menu items. So let's tap add media, and let's add a max width of 700 pixels. So whenever the screen width is less than 700 pixels, all these CSS inside this block will be added to our design. So let's go ahead and type nav menu items, and let's set the display to none. And we'll also hide this button that you see over here. So let's type nav, and the button is inside the right division, and it has a class of btn. Right now we need to add a menu icon over here. So let's go back to our HTML file, and here after this contact button, let's add a division with the class of menu icon, and here we will add the menu icon. So let's go to heroicons.com for that. Right here I'm in heroicons.com, and let's search for menu, and let's copy this SVG from here. Let's click on copy SVG, and let's paste it over here. Right now let's go to our style.css file and let's target the menu icon. So let's type nav menu icon. Let's target the SVG inside that, and let's set the width to 30 pixels. Now we can see we have the menu icon being displayed. Let's also target the menu icon division, and let's set the display to block, padding of 3 pixels, and cursor to pointer. Right now when we click on this menu icon, we need to display the menu items over here. So let's create menu items for the mobile version. So here let's create a division with the class of mobile menu, and in that let's create a division with the class of mobile menu items, and let's copy these menu items from here and let's paste it over here, and let's also copy this button and let's paste it over here. Right now let's style this. Now first of all we need to hide this in desktop version. So here in the desktop version, let's type mobile menu display of none, and let's also hide the menu icon. So let's type menu icon. Now when we click on this menu icon, we will add a class called active to this mobile menu, and when we have the active class, we'll just display the mobile menu over here. So for now I'll just add the active class over here and let's style it. So here let's type mobile menu dot active. Let's set the display to block. Let's set the position to fixed, background of white. Let's set the top to 100 pixels, right of 20 pixels, and padding of 24 pixels. Right now let's style these mobile menu items. So let's type mobile menu items, and let's set the display to flex direction to column, and let's add a gap of 16 pixels. Right now let's add and remove this active class when we click on this menu icon. So let's go back to our HTML file. Let's remove this active class from here, and we need to access this mobile menu and the menu icon elements from here inside our JavaScript. So here let's type const menu icon equals document.querySelector, and let's tap menu icon over here, and let's also target the mobile menu. So let's tap const mobile menu equals document.querySelector, and let's tap mobile menu, and now let's add an event listener for this menu icon. So let's tap menu icon dot add event listener. Let's listen for the click event, and here let's tap mobile menu dot class list dot toggle active. So if you have an active class for this mobile menu, it will be removed, and if it doesn't have, it will be added. So now let's click on this menu icon, and we have the menu being displayed. Let's click on it once again and it disappears. So everything is working alright. Let's go to the desktop version, and here also everything is working alright. Let's scroll down, and for this section we need to bring these elements one below the other. So let's go to the style.css file and let's go to the media query, and it is the about section. So let's tap hash about container, and let's set the flex direction to column, and now we can see it looks alright. I think we can decrease the gap a little bit. So let's type gap of 0, and I think that looks alright. Now if we scroll down, we have the brand section and it is looking alright. Let's scroll down, and we have these sections over here. So let's style these. Now they are inside the split container division. So if you go back to the HTML, here we can see that we have this section with an ID of releases, and it also has a class of split. We have the same class over here for performance as well. So let's target that. Let's tap split container, and let's set the flex direction to column, and I think that looks alright. Now if you increase the width of the browser window, we can see that the width of the image is not 100%. So let's target the images. So let's tap split image, and let's set the width to 100%, and we also need to set the width of the containers. So here we have the image inside the left division, and here we have the image inside the right division. So let's tap split left and split right, and let's set the width to 100%. Now we can see that the image has the correct width for the releases and the performance sections. Right now let's scroll down, and we need to have these buttons one below the other. So let's target the division, and it has this division with the class of btn container. So let's target that. I'll just tap btn container, And let's set the flex direction to column. And now we can see that the buttons are one below the other. And then lastly, we have the footer, and let's type footer, and we have this division with the class of address. So let's type address over here, and here let's type flex direction to column, and let's set a gap of 50 pixels. And now we can see that everything is looking all right. So with that, we have completely made our website responsive. Now we're going to use this service called netlify.com for deploying our website. You can just go ahead and create a free account. You can also log in with your GitHub account. And once you log in, you will find this screen right here. And there are two options of uploading the website. You can upload it from your GitHub account, or you can also simply go ahead and drag and drop the site folder over here. I'll just use this second method. So this is my website, and this is the parent folder. So we can just drag and drop this folder over here. So let's do that. And here we can see it has this message, deploy success. So let's click on dismiss. And this is the URL of our website right now. So let's go ahead and open the URL. So let's click on open production deploy. And here's our website, and everything looks as expected. Let's take a look at the mobile version. And this also looks all right. Let's click on this menu icon, and it is also working. So everything is working all right. Now the last thing we will do is we will change this URL. So let's go back, and let's go to options and deploy settings. And here let's scroll down, and let's look for the option of changing the URL. So for that, you can just go over here to general, and here we can see we have the site information, and here we have the option of changing the site name. So let's click on that, and here we can change the site name. So I'll just change this to, let's try LB Music. Let's click on save. And we can see that the site name has changed. So now let's go ahead and open this URL. And now we can see that the website is displayed exactly as expected, and we have the new URL over here. You can also add your custom domain if you have purchased one over here. So that's basically how easy it is to deploy your website online on Netlify. Alright, so that's basically it for this video. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below. And if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.